Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Essentialists episode number 8. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. So, today we got a questions from you, and thank you very much for being there for us. Really, we do not take it for granted. And today we want to discuss the obvious and yet not so obvious topic as shoes, weightlifting shoes. We're going Al Bundy, the famous shoe salesman here. And like this is my childhood hero, almost a father to me. And it was him and Homer Simpson, basically, you know. But and Chuck, because Chuck is good, but like it's often overrated a little bit, and we need to understand what's going on there. So, as always, do you wish to start?
Sure.
Like, yeah, you won't break a good habit, please.
Okay. So the question was weightlifting shoes. Is that right? Do I
Yeah.
remember correctly? Okay.
Yeah, Reynaldo asked, what about lifting shoes? Like, what's
Okay.
the thing behind them?
So yeah, when I started with kettlebells, I went through the RKC program, and we did everything barefoot back then, and that was kind of like the idea was to strengthen your feet and to be able to use your toes to feel the floor and to grip the floor and things like that. And for years, I trained barefoot with kettlebells, and it wasn't really until I started to compete and training to compete that shoes became, well, obviously they're required in competition. And so, as someone that started with half snatch, half marathon, I truly or honestly believe that in GS training or marathon training for kettlebells, it really doesn't matter what you're wearing for snatch or half snatch, whatever's going to be comfortable, especially if you're doing long sets, 30 minutes or an hour or longer. Standing in one place gets to be awfully tiresome, and so you want comfort in your feet. And there's so much in GS, there's so much rocking, while you're snatching or half snatching that foundation or keeping your feet flat, in my opinion, isn't as necessary. However, when I am squatting or two bells overhead, I really and much prefer wearing weightlifting shoes. And they don't have to be anything fancy, in my opinion. I wear whatever I can find on sale generally. But yeah, the elevated heel and the hard, flat sole makes a huge difference for stability, in my opinion, with squats, half snatch, two bell half snatch, jerks, long cycle, things like that. And so I much prefer using just your standard weightlifting shoe for training and for competing when it comes to putting two bells overhead and squats in training or deadlifts or.
Yes, so exactly that you just mentioned. Okay, here are my 2 cents about shoes. So they bear historical part, they bear biomechanical part, and as always, they bear some abusing theme. All right, so here's the story about weightlifting shoes in general. In competitions, you can, and I've seen it, just do these things with sneakers. Like they require you to have shoes on. Nobody will tell you what or oblige you to use weightlifting shoe or any other shoe. The thing with barefoot training, it is amazing and it's a must because it awakes the plantar fascia, all the stabilizers of the ankle, your arc beginning to work. And yeah, like people with plantar, after working barefoot and pulling barefoot, squatting, they said that like the platform's gone better and the feet are working and it's less painful. So it's an amazing, and please, by all means, do it. So we're talking about the middle way of Buddha here. However, when we transfer to girevoysport, okay, especially we need to understand one thing. So weightlifting shoes became, I don't believe it was about 1930 30 or 40, something along, maybe later a little bit. In the first days of Olympic weightlifting, barbell weightlifting, in snatch exercise, when you like snatch the barbell overhead and you drop, people used to do the split. Okay, the split stance, the lunge like they do in a jerk now. Okay, the lunging. Now it's a weight, wide grip, it's highly unstable. And why? Because the barbell is relatively low, unlike kettlebells. I need to go as deep as possible. And often two things are limiting factor. First of all, it's my Achilles tendon that gets huge amount of mechanical stress. Second is my knees that must travel forward. Now, even if I'm like this superior weightlifting with great flexibility, mechanics still apply. And eventually torque is torque, and enough weight will cause damage to either my Achilles tendon or my kneecap, all right? Because knees can transmit, it's a transmission that can like transmit a high load, like huge, like stupid amounts of weight, and you like see nowadays powerlifting, what are they doing? Okay, and the knees are fine. But until the certain angle, you take it a little bit further and that's it. Okay, you are rolled in the wheelchair for the rest of your life. All right. So then somebody just, thought about it and elevated the heels a little bit. All right. It was something just, like out of, okay, let's elevate the heels a little bit. And that's what allowed a weightlifter in the snatch to squat, to go into the squat position, because when I'm elevating the heel, I'm reducing mechanical stress from my Achilles tendon. It allows my knee safely, because I'm elevated, to travel forward, which in turn gives me more stability under the bar. Hence, weight went up, etc. Second of all, since we're talking explosive strengths, and we want to project the energy from the heel strike up. So this is where the flat sole and hard sole come in play, because if you wear sneakers, it's basically like doing this on trampoline. Okay, you're doing your effort, and then everything from your dip is, instead of shooting back up, it's brrr, and you're getting buried under the bells, and you need to become a little bit push pressy. Now, compound interest works both ways, okay? And again, for 5-10 sets in an AMRAP, if it's CrossFit event or whatever, you'll be fine, okay? Even barefoot, it doesn't matter. But if you want to stand anywhere between 10 minutes and longer, and if numbers matter and your health matter, right, eventually you'll feel the difference between the sneakers and the weightlifting shoes. Because let's remember that like mainly our listeners started pretty late, like you and I have, okay? Like it's not 14, 8 years old athletes that are brought. So our biomechanics, okay, like my T-spine, my lumbar spine, the hip flexors, everything is pretty much tightish. So when I'm wearing the weightlifting shoes, okay, it merely allows me to do a safer dip, de-stressing my lower back, which is important because I want to lift for years, okay, not for months. It takes the pressure off my knees, and by stabilizing the foot, because the weightlifting shoes are wider, okay, you have bigger base of support, you can push more force into the bells. So everything plays in into especially older elderly athletes, just to make it more safer, more attainable to practice in a safe manner. With this being said, and I've posted several videos, from time to time I do like barefoot or sneaker sets, and especially now this is my personal observation, in snatch it kind of doesn't matter, because snatch is a different exercise. You don't have the second dip that you need to really be very sharp, crisp, and drive the energy up. It's a more soft exercise. You can play with it. But in jerk or long cycle, where you need this explosiveness and you need the stability of the foot because your foot taking its toll, and if you're standing enough time, your feet begin to get numb. And like people who stood for long, like really standing in the rack position, because in snatch you're pivoting and you're kind of walking, and in jerk on long cycle you're standing, and eventually your feet begin to get numb. All right, and in sneakers, everything is tired because the stabilizer work. Okay, this is something like this goes into sneakers because it is not stable and it's not flat. Okay, so when I tried to do the long cycle, even with light bells, barefooted, my lower back didn't like it at all. Okay, it was fun, it was nice, it made a good Instagram post. By the way, we are repeating the theme, don't believe everything you see on social media. I've tried it, I write about it, wrote about it, it was nice, but eventually I felt like, no, all right? With my flexibility, it just don't do good. So this is basically like my take on shoes. And lastly, I am a huge believer of rituals because rituals save us a lot of cognitive and preparation and emotional and motivational budget, okay, effort. So when you have your weightlifting shoes, when you have this outfit and you're beginning to dress, to prep, your psychology, okay, it goes like this ritual, it narrows into the practice ahead. So you kind of, like changing your personality. Okay, here I am like this, and here I am a lifter. So everything changes. And when you're like casual, okay, like here me with like my t-shirt, I just grab the bells and do it. Okay, it feels like it also, and for beginners, and yeah, I'm going to shut up after the sentence, and beginners, I often, like, I highly recommend gearing up because it creates more commitment to yourself. Like you are once again proving to yourself that you're not playing. It's not something like taste. You are serious. You are going to do the work. You like you order the shoes, like you have this gear and it's nice, and like everything plays into your sustainability and increases your chances to finish the program, to progress, to have fun, to saying like, wow, like I didn't believe like what change I will see in 12 weeks, and like I begin to like it, etc. And yeah, lastly, sorry, the branding does not matter. It is your feet we're talking about. So it's about comfortability. You put the shoes on if you have the luxury, if you're like local shop, you put the shoes on and whatever feels like good, you buy it. Because my pair of shoes are 15 years old, maybe more. Yeah, oh no, sorry. Yeah, 10 or 10 plus. They've been everywhere, and this is not something that is like wears out very quickly, unless you're doing burpees in them or whatever. The weightlifting shoes are just for weightlifting. I put them on when I do my kettlebell specific sets. I take them off, or I'm doing my powerlifting work, which is the same because I'm merely standing in them. That's it. Everything else is done is barefoot, minimalistic sneakers, whatever. Okay, so it's a hybrid. So it's a hybrid thing. That's it. I've talked too much.
If I'll just wrap it up. And so
Yeah.
we talked about belts last week and shoes this week, and it's one of those things where if you're just training for fitness and wellness, absolutely you don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
True.
if you ever have the desire to compete or think that you may have the desire to compete, training GS is uncomfortable enough as is, and so trying to use a belt or shoes to help you become more advantageous and make the experience more enjoyable, I would encourage it. If you ever did compete, you would, in my opinion, need to train the way you will compete, and so I wouldn't recommend not wearing a belt in your training and then throwing one on for the platform, or vice versa. Same with shoes. And so, get used to them. They are different. They are not like a tennis shoe. If you're doing all your training in like a cushioned running shoe, and then suddenly you put on weightlifting shoes for the first time, or they're not broke in, Yeah, it's just not a smart way to compete. So train the way you plan to compete, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you never compete, awesome. Do what you would like to do. If you want to be barefoot, if you want to wear regular shoes, there's no judge. There's no one that's gonna stand over you and no rep you in your own training sets. So, but yeah, just keep that in mind that there's a reason that people use them, and there's a method to the madness behind GS. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one last thing about shoes, we move to the chalk. Please remember, you will have adaptation period because your feet will need to adapt to a completely different environment, angles, this hardness, everything. So please don't do the running mistake of running a first marathon with the first worn sneakers. Okay, it's going to be a disaster. If you're going to, as Levi, as you said, like dress to compete and train as you're going to compete. If you're investing in weightlifting shoes, begin to use them because you'll need the time for all the ligaments and tissue to adapt, and then you'll slowly begin to be one with your weightlifting shoes. All right, moving on to the chalk. Please, Sir Levi, your insights about the chalk shower.
Yeah.
People love spreading the fairy dust. Chalk.
As much as I hate wearing your cotton gloves, I enjoy chalk that much more. So, chalk definitely helps with keeping your hands dry, helps with grip and friction on the kettlebell handle, makes a big difference in the long sets, a positive difference in the long sets. As you fatigue and your hands get sweaty or arm sweat gets on your hands, the bell gets harder to hang on to. You begin to over grip. There's a chance that you get that arm pump a little bit sooner. Chalk is a huge training tool for me. I really really enjoy it. As I feel like I can get longer sets, better reps, heavier bells when I'm using chalk. It's easy mentally. I'm easier. It's easier for me to get in if I know I've got a long set or a heavy set. Chalk definitely helps that from a mental preparation as well, knowing that I've got the ability to go or to dig deep. With that in mind, again, if you don't train with chalk and then you suddenly use it, you have to be aware that it does change the grip. It does make it easier to hang on to. And so if you're used to over gripping the bell because it feels slippery and then you suddenly use chalk and you don't make the adjustment on your grip, the amount of friction it'll create will likely cause some hot spots and likely some tears as well. And so you need to be aware of how that bell changes, how your grip changes with the chalk on the bell. And so, there's techniques to chalk the bell. I generally just chalk my hands, but you'll see people that will chalk the bell handles. And I would caution too, if you've never chalked the bell handle, I wouldn't just go and do that at a competition. Chalk how you train. If you just do your hands in training, just do your hands at the competition. Just be prepared. The last thing you need is to, again, have a situation on the platform and your hands are torn and you can't hang on the bell any longer and your set ends early. So that's just some things, I guess, from my point of view.
You know what? Let's talk in the next episode about the competition, like how to prepare for the event. We call it competition, but event, because we all participate in kettlebell events.
That's true.
We enjoy it very much. And regardless if you are really aiming to take the number one and beat the Russians or whatever, it's events, they're fun. But then again, people who don't know how usually mess up, and they need to understand how to manage it, because it's not the half marathon. It's not like running, swimming events. It's a bit different. Okay, so we are going to talk about this in the next episode to expand. Chuck, wow. So chalk is a great tool, as you've said. First of all, it makes you look cool. Makes you look I'm serious dude. You see, I'm all white, I'm all chalk, And it really and it makes great video in the Instagram, especially when you do it like this, and then
Yeah.
you edit it, and it
Yeah.
flies. But Chuck is about sweat management. And most important thing you need to understand, Chuck won't save your skin. You will tear your skin because you will tear your skin. This is a part of a game. This is a part of a preparation. When you're aiming for half an hour, for 10 minutes, when you go tempo up, uh, skin is an organ like a muscle that needs to adapt. So regardless to the chuck, skin tear will happen. And this is the first crucial mistake that people think okay, I've chucked my hands, screw the technique basically. Okay, I have my chuck on. Okay, I can, do whatever I want. No, you can't. Okay, because chuck will carry you only this far. Second, if you know yourself as a non-sweater, if your hands are dry, okay, I don't know, you work with wood and your hands like dry wood, you don't need chuck. Basically, because your dry skin, the kettlebell will slide. And my latest says that I'm doing now, I'm almost not using chuck and it's fine. So the technique and my skin are absolutely fine. I don't feel I need it. Okay, so it's something to take into consideration. And in your preparation, you must train without chuck, and you must go to the point that you're working with sweaty hands, because you must understand how to manage it, because it will happen. Okay, and the moment it happens and you don't know how to manage it, you freak out, and then you over gripping, technique gets messy, skin got torn, that's it. All right, so there are ways to work. Okay, so please, you owe yourself these ones, and again, it should be programmed. It has its proper time in the overall cycle of preparation. Okay, but just go chuckless. As far as chuck goes, yeah, we are chucking the palms. Again, it's a sweat management. I want to close, all right, my skin, to completely make it, how you say it, sweat proof. Okay, I need to basically make my skin sweat proof, as my palms if I'm sweaty, because the thing is, the moment you have sweat, your palm begin to kind of stick and glue to the handle, and then begin to slightly pull the skin. And again, we're talking multiple repetitions here. And again, this is crucial in snatch and in cleans. If you're merely jerking, you don't need the chuck that much, because kettlebells kind of stand there. That's it. They don't move. You don't need to move them. All right. So clean and snatch, where we constantly regripping. That's one. So it's the palms. And like in cooking, when you're putting oil, you're putting enough oil to cook the dish. You don't need to spill the whole bottle. You got just in case. All right. There is no case. Okay. It demands that much. So you apply chuck as you need. The most crucial thing is your forearm. Okay, so basically the connection of the kettlebell, it's crucial, because when this area, the forearm, begins to be sweaty, especially if it's hot environment, if you're doing it outside, or in events sometimes no AC in the summer, you are sweating and you are wet because it's hot. So when you're in clean or in snatch, when your palm goes down, sweat flows down to your fingers, and then you're in trouble, because dry chalk and water basically create this type of a goo, and then it gets hellish. So chalking or sweat bands that are allowed, if you need to really manipulate your sweat management, the sweat bands, they absorb the sweat to prevent it from flowing down into your palm. And that's why, here's the pro tip, in the fixation phase, athletes just open the fingers. Okay, they slightly open, expand the fingers to ventilate between the fingers and keep them dry. Okay, we do not overextend, because it breaks the hand insertion. Okay, we just, in the lockout, we just slightly, you can open the finger, and it's enough to ventilate and to make the hands dry. Okay, So chuck is easy. Now, what does works, and it works great, and it is allowed in competition, is you can wet your short in the rack position when your elbows are. You can apply some water, like you can make the short wet, and you can really put a lot of chalk on the short. Then you can wet your elbows and apply chalk here. Like that, when it dries up, it creates like a sandpaper. When you go into the rack, especially after clean and in jerks, when you go into the rack, your elbows doesn't slide. So it's suddenly boom, and you're stuck. And I'm now using it. I wrote about it too. It's a psychological factor. So it's things that you use like really like this, I don't know, like enhancement, like performance enhancing drugs almost. All right, like you have a bad day, whatever, you're tired, you're kind of nervous, you're wetting the short, you're putting the chalk, and immediately in the rack position, you feel as if, I don't know, like you're working with one kettlebell size down. It's like boom, and they sit there here, and you're, nice, I can work. Okay, so it changes. So this chalking, especially elbows, short, in the rack position, again, it won't serve you in snatch, absolutely unnecessary, unless it's a half snatch. Okay, you can do it. Now, there are some federations, and this is something in particular that you need to ask. They don't allow over excessive chalking. They recognize they saying that is not a fair advantage. Okay, because like applying, like putting stuff on the shorts and making you do special shirts with where your elbows got stuck. Okay, it's unfair game, but most and like federations, they let you roll with it, and it really changes the game. All right, so this is as far as chalk goes. You just need to understand, apply as much as you need on your palms. They need to be dry. It won't save bad technique. So you must have the technique, and you must work with technique. Forearms, cleans and snatches are crucial to prevent the sweat from rolling down. Shorts and elbows, the rack position is boom. It's very stable. It's comfortable. It saves a huge amount of energy. All right, just to stand there. And that's it, I believe. And yep, we covered. Oh, and for people who consider really long sets, like a marathon, you are allowed to have a chalk bag like climbers. So you need to learn how to operate when you snatch, when you clean, how to put one hand to chuck it, to shake it, or if you have some assistant with the chuck. So this is something that must be practiced how you do it. All right, and like just another piece of information. And I believe we've covered this 2 questions. Good. So we are going to lay foundation for the next episode. Because we've been asked, and it's always comes around the theme of why are you guys so prone competition or event participation? Because like I do it in my garage, I've done 10 minutes, I've done this and this like number of repetitions, or like, you know, I can run a marathon around my house, I don't need to drive and blah, blah, blah. And we're huge advocates of it. And we want to lay a foundation for the next topic because we are going to really discuss in depth there. This is something that my coach, Davidic, told me when I was preparing to have Ironman. And I was like headbutting him and like, I won't do this and I can't do that. And as we like, again, I'm the same as, I'm no different than you are. I bitch and I do. And then he gave me a sentence that really like, it shook me. He told me, listen, try it. Like at least try it the way I am suggesting you to, from A to Z. Finish it, participate in the event, and then decide if you even like the stuff or not, and then you can quit, sell the bike, throw everything, and, you know, like go do like other business. But have this, like, you know, have this journey so you really can make a decision, and it really pivoted and changed the way I see things, and this is what happened. And he saved me 9 years with 9 months of preparation. And this is where we're going to say to be continued, next chapter, and we're going to expand on this topic of, fear of life, fear of death, and what events really are. Okay, because it goes beyond the competition. Sounds fair?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So thank you for joining us yet again for another hopefully exciting episode of of the Essentialists. Thank you, Levi. Thank you, guys. Again, we are welcoming your question. Please give us stuff to talk about. We'll gladly expand. And you have a nice weekend, beautiful life, train safe and smart, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
See you, Coach.